Welcome to JFix and a new AliExpress tools video. If you're interested in tools for electronics repairs, then definitely stick around because I have got a lot of tools on my desk to show you. As you can see then, we have loads of things on the desk here. I can hardly fit them all on, so this is going to be fun looking at some of these things. Now, before we start, I do have to say a massive shout out and thank you to AliExpress because they did help fund some of these tools and put some money towards them, so I really appreciate that. And also massive thanks to you guys who have previously used some of my links, which has helped me to buy some more tools as well. So thank you very much. And if I can, I will try to get some discount codes that hopefully can save you a little bit of money. So if I do get them, I'll put them down in the corner here that you'll be able to use on your next purchase. And again, all the tools I'm showing here, I will provide links for in the description if you want to check them out and support my channel, and if you need any of these items to help your own repairs. By the way, you will see there's a little bit of a theme to these tools as well, because this year I really want to improve my skills. I want to take the repairs to the next level, improve my skills, and that is going to be meaning that I need to get tooled up to do some like more complex repairs like BGA repairs, you know, reballing and things like that. So quite a lot of those tools are going to be related to that, and we've got some general tools as well. Where to start then? I have no idea because we've got so many things here. This could be quite a long video, so I will try and move quickly, do a bit of an overview, and then maybe we'll have time to look at some of these things in a little bit more detail. What I'll do is I'll show you a couple of items first that I managed to get. They weren't from AliExpress, they were from different places, so let me show you those ones first of all. First up then, we have some tools from ifixit. Now, I don't own any ifixit tools currently, so I thought it would be good to check them out, and obviously they have some great teardowns and things, and you know, it'd be nice to support them in a little way because they do give a lot to the repair community, and you know, maybe their tools are quite decent as well. I do see quite a lot of people using the screwdriver sets and things like that, and I've seen these ones on Amazon, and believe it or not, they are quite reasonably priced, so let's have a look at these. So I think they actually have 3 products in this lineup. They have this, the wire strippers, some pliers, and some flush cutters as well. Now, I'm good on flush cutters, so I didn't pick up them. But I think these are called like the Mandale or something range of tools. Grips on these are really nice. It does have like a spring-loaded mechanism, and it also is lockable as well for when you're not using it. And then if you press, it does release the tool like that. I would say a set of wire strippers are an essential actually for an electronics workbench, and believe it or not, I didn't even have any, which is a bit criminal really. So these look really nice, and what I like about these ones is they go down to some really small sizes. So it goes all the way down to 0.25mm or 30 gauge, and then all the way up to 10 gauge or 2.6mm. And I do like the grips on here. They do feel, you know, quite nice in the hand, so I'm quite pleased with these. Should we just try and strip a little bit of wire? So we have a bit of wire here that I believe is 18 gauge. So let's have a look for the 18 gauge, which will be this one. So let's strip it with that. Oh, that's nice and easy. What I like to do when I'm stripping wires like that is then strip it again. So we'll go 18 gauge again and do a second strip. And then I just run my fingers down just to make sure that the stripping didn't bite into the conductor at all, so I can feel there's no nick at all on there. So it's definitely, you know, going to the right size there, and we're not damaging the conductor inside. So I'm very happy with them, and you might see me using them on future videos if we're stripping wires. Let's have a look at these ones then. These are the needle nose, and as I say, if you just press it in... Oh, Sodium has just subscribed. Thank you very much, appreciate you. So as I was saying, yeah, these are quite good because they are spring-loaded on here. I like that. If you just keep doing repetitive things and pulling at things, having them spring-loaded is, you know, really easy to use. They do have like a bit of knurling, a bit of grip on there, so this would be quite good for like gripping wires and stuff. The needle nose that I currently have are these Knipex ESD ones, which again are spring-loaded, and these are really nice. However, these are completely flat edges on there, so there is no grip at all. So it's nice for me to have both options available, because having the flat edge is quite good because you don't damage anything or mar anything when you're pulling at it. But then obviously having the grip on there again can be useful in different circumstances, and these are a bit longer as well, so it's just about having the right tool for the right job, I think. So those two ifixit things were from Amazon, and I also got two more things from Amazon. One of them were these engineer spanners. Now, shout out to Just Inspired because I seen these on his channel and he highly recommended these, and I'm really glad that I picked these up. Let me show you them in a bit more detail. So check these out. These do feel really nice quality and keeps them all nice together on this little ring chain. And I'll tell you the reason why I wanted to get these. So recently I've done that laptop roller coaster series, and I've ended up with a lot of laptops with, like, you know, damaged hinges and stuff. So what I'd probably try and do is see if I can use like some hot glue or something like that, or plastic weld, to weld them back into position. But then it's not going to be as strong. So what you'd probably want to do is slacken off, and you can see these little bolts on here, nuts, are quite difficult access to get to, and that's where these tiny little spanners are going to come in quite handy. With these spanners, I should be able to get into quite tight spaces, and then I'll be able to, you know, adjust the hinges on the laptop screens. So I really think that these are going to be quite useful for my laptop repairs. And the last one I picked up from AliExpress was this. This is the Hakko brass ball holder. And I wanted to get a genuine one to make sure that this actually was real brass in here, because I've heard and seen that this is really good for cleaning the tips on the soldering iron, as opposed to using like the little sponges and things that I've got with mine. So definitely we'll be using this one to try and keep our tip clean all the time on the soldering iron. So the rest of the items we've got here are all from AliExpress. Now, I want to show you this one first because I've already opened this and had a little go with it, and I really like this thing. I'm really impressed with it. So let's have a look at this one. I picked this one up because it did look interesting. This is the YCS Divine Dragon, and I'm actually really, as I say, impressed with this. So let me unbox this and show you again. So check this thing out. This is a UV and a fan all in one little compact unit. Really nice little made thing. I thought it was going to kind of look quite cheap made, but it actually feels quite good quality. And I've left this sticker on here to show you because this is quite interesting. If I press the buttons on it, it doesn't work. And if you peel the sticker off, what's actually under the sticker is a light sensor. So I think it's for like transportation. So once it had that on, it stopped like the buttons getting pressed. As you can see, it's working now. So I think that's pretty wild that they've actually built something in the circuit where that little sticker on there stops it working just for transportation, unless it's got some other use. But yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. The other interesting thing that I thought about this is that it's obviously got the 5-volt USB-C input on here. So I assume that this is obviously going to be a USB powered fan and curing lamp. However, it actually has a battery in it because it still works without the USB connected. So if I press there, look, we've got a UV light and it is extremely bright. Probably don't want to blind you too much in there, but it does work perfectly, the UV light. And then the fan is quite loud. Let's put that on. I don't know how well you'll hear that with the noise cancelling, but it is a proper fan. And we've also got an LED on there to indicate when it's on. So one for the fan, one for the UV, and one for the charging. So currently I do have a UV lamp. I have this little mechanic one that I can press and the light comes on, and you can see on here I can just hover it and it gives us like a little bit of a space on here as it cures. Now this lamp stays on for about 30 seconds and then it's a nightmare to turn it back on again. I think you have to wait like 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, I don't know, whatever it is, for that to come back on. This one, you can see that it's actually brighter, so it looks like it's going to be a more powerful UV, and it stays on the same for 30 seconds as the My Mechanic one, but you can then just kind of switch it straight back on again if you want additional curing. You know, you don't have to wait for a cool down or anything like that. And if we wanted to, we could also turn on the fan and cool things down as well. What I have been doing recently when working on a motherboard and not being able to attach the fan assembly, I've just been placing this little heatsink on there, but it does get quite hot after the time. So I also thought that this could be quite a good little tool to actually place on top of the heatsink and give me just a little bit of temporary cooling if I wanted to cool something down and I didn't want to power down the board. And it actually fits, you know, perfectly nice on top of that heatsink. I think it would work really well for that. Moving on then, and another product I got is these toothbrushes. Now, I think these were YCS branded ones as well as that little fan there. And yeah, these feel quite nice. And it might mean I can actually get these fluxy toothbrushes back and start brushing my teeth again. Just to show you a bit of a close-up, the bristles on here do feel really nice quality. I think they're definitely going to get in between the components a lot better than what I was using. Because this one, the bristles are like, they're too stiff on here compared to this one. You know, these are much softer. And these do feel actually a bit more like a tool than an actual toothbrush. You can see you've got like a knurled edge in if you really want to get in there and clean something. And they've also got like a little cutout here for your finger, you know, at probably the right distance that you would use it. So we'll have to be giving these brushes a go, see how they get on. I also gave one of those to PCDD the other day when I went down, see if he gets on with them as well. Of course, you can't do an AliExpress order without picking up a new set of tweezers, so I do have these ones, and this is something unique that I don't currently have yet. And these ones were actually recommended to me, and I can't remember, so I apologise whoever it recommended, but I do appreciate it, thank you. These ones are actually locking tweezers, and that's the ones that I haven't. You probably got some of these yourself, but these ones you push in, you know, and then it comes back on itself and locks in. So this would be quite useful for like holding wires, so you don't have to worry about, you know, giving pressure. And I've got the hooked ones as well. I thought that would be quite good for like resting against the motherboard and holding something in place. Here we go, look, we got a nice little Cypress PD controller being held in there. So yeah, they work quite well, and it's not going to go anywhere. And some of you who have watched my Joey Does Tech laptop series might be interested to know I also have had the arrival of the MOSFETs I ordered. These are the MP86949s, so we do have these. However, there might be a bit of an update on that laptop, and we might not be using these because, you know, I do actually have another plan as well. So yeah, we'll keep them to the side because they might still come in useful, but definitely I'll be doing another video update on that series. Here we go then, this is quite an interesting product. This is the Tredix HDMI cable tester. Now, I know this is going to be a good product because I already have their USB variant. So this is their USB tester, and this one is brilliant. And now we have the HDMI version as well. So I'm quite happy to have both of them in my collection. And the good thing with this one is it will do all different combinations of HDMI. So you've got standard HDMI, mini and micro HDMI. You can do any combination you want. So you could also have, you know, like the micro HDMI to a standard HDMI or HDMI to HDMI. I'll just grab a cable and we'll plug it in. I'll just show you how it works. Here we go, so I just have a bog standard HDMI to HDMI. I don't know if this is a good cable or not, it's just been laying around here, probably getting oxidized. I don't know if it's working or not, so let's test it with the tester. So you can power this thing with a USB-C port, but I like to use the CR2032 in my USB tester, so I'll do the same as on here, and you just need to use the toggle switch to toggle it on. I always put it back to V in after I've used it, just to not deplete the battery in any way. So all you do with this one is you plug the HDMI cable in one end and nothing will happen, and then you plug the HDMI cable into the other end. And this is just going to loop it back on itself and check for continuity between each pin. And as you can see here, we have a nice full house. Every single pin is lit up on here, so we do have continuity between each pin. And the great thing with testers like this is it's like a real-time visual of what's going on. So you can see, look, as we wiggling the cable about on here because we're not fully plugged in, we're not making a good connection, you can see the lights going on and off. So this is great for faulting it, and you can do, you know, your little pressure test, your little wiggle test on your cable just to make sure, and we can test at the other end as well. So I really like that. And if you do console repairs, you've probably got something like this, a little HDMI breakout board, and that gives you like the pins on here, look, you can see. So you can take your diode readings or something from the port. However, this tester can also do that as well. If you wanted to take measurements on your console, you can just plug this end of the cable into your console. I probably would get a slightly shorter cable as well. And the great thing about this is it gives you test points for each pin on here. And not just a test point, but it also tells you, what each pin is, which is quite nice as a visual on here. So if you just wanted to test like D1 plus, you can just go onto this test point you see without having to know which pin it actually is. It's going to be labelled up on here for you. And also what you'll notice is that for the 3 different sizes of HDMI, there are slight different variations on here. So you've got circle is your standard HDMI. So it would be pin 4 for D1 plus on a standard HDMI, but it will be pin 5 or pin 6 according to here. Squares mini HDMI, and then the open square is micro HDMI. So quite a nice little useful reference as well. And by the way, on the back of the tester here, you do have like a full pin out, and it shows you how the pins are actually numbered in the connector itself. Like standard and micro here are the same, and then mini has its kind of own labelling because they all go on a single line on here, whereas the other ones are double-sided. I'm really happy to get the HDMI one because I said I've already got that USB one, but I will try and find the link where I bought that one from AliExpress as well, and I will try and give you the USB one in case you do want that one as well as the HDMI one, but they're great tools for my arsenal to add into my tool set here. Next up then we have the Mechanic desoldering braid. So this is called the SR20, it's 2mm, and I do believe it's kind of got some flux or something lined inside it. So for this one, all you do is you pull out as much braid as you need, like that. And, once you're finished and done with it, it's got a little winder on here. So we can just, wind it back in like that. I do have already this Mechanic braid, which I think is probably the same as what's in there. But these little things, if you've ever used them before, are kind of a nightmare to, try and wrap around and unravel and stuff. The braid itself is okay, but yeah, just this thing's kind of annoying. And also you'd be able to use it while you're on the board to hold it. Maybe that would work as well. It could be like a little holder. So I'm going to give that a shot with a few repairs, see if I like that kind of method better. Looks like we're finally starting to get a bit of space on the table again, which is good. So what these little guys are actually antenna connectors that go on the end of the cable. So those connectors are going to be used in an upcoming video. Now you're probably familiar with these if you work on laptops. These are just your little Wi-Fi cards, and they have these little connectors on there, the MHF4 ones that your antenna plugs connect to. But the question is, if the cable gets damaged and you damage the end of the connector on there, what's your choices then? Trying to solder the cable and make a permanent connection on here can be a bit of a nightmare. As opposed to replacing the cable, but often the antenna goes all the way into the screen and everything, and you've got to take your screen out. So kind of a tricky repair actually. So that's why I'm going to use those cable connectors and see if we can try and make the ends on the cable. Right, what do you want to look at next then? Let's have a look at this, the flux. Now on a previous video I bought this flux that I've been using, you can see in here. It's like a pure rosin or something in there. But then I've seen this one, and I've never seen anybody using this before, so let's try and give this one a go as well, see how we get on with this. This is green flux. Check that out. Oh, you can see where I've already put my finger in it. Now this isn't super hard. You can see, look, it's kind of like a sticky kind of mixture in here. There you go. I'll show you up close. So I have no idea how this is going to work, like some kind of slime. Let me just grab my soldering iron. Let's see how much it smokes. Oh, it's it goes instantly like a liquid. So this is quite interesting. The reason I was thinking about using this is because I think, and I've seen Soren use this method of dipping the chips in the flux before soldering just to get a good contact. But that rosin does actually leave, quite a residue on the board. And I'm wondering about this kind of thing here. Maybe it will be easier to clean. Well, the other one's easy to clean, but maybe it will, not leave as much residue on the board. But with most of these products, it doesn't really give you any information or instructions on how this is supposed to be used. So it's one of those where you've got to try it and figure it out for yourself to see if it's any good. So we'll be trying that in videos going forward, see if we like it or not. But Tool on here, I've got some of their tweezers as well, and I think I picked up something else that's Tool on here, and I know that that's a pretty good brand. People probably use that more in like the mobile phones and stuff. I haven't seen many people with laptop repairs using this one. Here it is. Here's the other tool thing that I got. Now this is Deoxidation Soldering Paste tongue twister. Now, as I said, I'm going to be trying to do some BGA repairs and, you know, doing some reballing and things like this. Now, I know one issue is that you can get dull pads. You know, when you remove a chip, it may be dull on the motherboard, or if you buy a replacement IC, the pads, you know, as it's come from overseas, you know, they can be a bit oxidized and dull. So I think you use this just like a soldering paste, but it probably has some kind of quite corrosive flux mixture inside here. So you only use it for cleaning and for, like, you know, attaching to the pads, and then you would clean it off. You wouldn't actually solder with this, but hopefully this will burn through and eat away at any oxidization on here, and then obviously ensure you get a good contact. But as I say, these are all brand new products, guys. I've not tried any of these products. I am just literally, you know, showing you as they're all brand new, unboxed. So, you know, I don't know if it's going to be very effective yet, but yeah, we'll have to try and use things. And a lot of these things I haven't seen other people using, other than a few like TikTok videos and stuff like that. But they do seem to be quite effective on there. So before we have a look at the rest of the tools, I do have this as well that I picked up, and this one is specifically designed as a storage for stencils on there. So I think this would be quite good to keep everything organised, keep all my stencils, and I know keeping things clean, keeping things organised is quite a good thing to do when you're doing the BGA work. So yeah, this wasn't actually that expensive, I don't think, and I thought, yeah, it might just help me, you know, with all the compartments, just organise things a little bit better, and I can keep all the BGA supplies in here that I'm going to use. So we'll stick that over to the side, and we'll put that deoxidation paste in the back there. I'm talking about solder paste. We have the mechanic solder paste, and this is the 6337 on here, and I know that, you know, a lot of people use this one, and it seems to be a highly recommended one. So definitely we will be trying this one because other people have success with it. Let's have a little look inside. Now, by the way, I know one thing is that the solder paste should be quite dry before you use it. If it's too runny, then it might not work very well. And I have left this with the lid open for 24 hours, and it still seems quite runny, to be honest with you. I did speak to Andy, and he said he actually used a hot air in his, I think, 180 degrees, and kept stirring it until it was dried out enough. So we may have to give that method a go as well with the hot air. And I have also seen Paul Daniels, he puts the solder paste out on the on a bit of towel, and then uses the hot air, or dries it out on a bit of paper towel. So there are quite a few different methods that we could probably give it a go to try. As well as the solder paste, we are also going to need solder balls then as well. Now, I believe the solder paste is quite good for the smaller chips and for speed and convenience, but if you are doing a big IC like a CPU and stuff like I plan to do, then probably solder balls are more recommended to give you that really even coverage. I mean, we'll give it a go with both of them just to see how we get on. So I've picked up, you know, a couple of solder balls, and for what I need, it looks like 0.4mm is going to be the one to go for. So these solder balls are YCS, and have a look at this. It says 25,000 balls in this jar, and you can see the jar looks like to be a quarter full. But I don't think you'd ever actually know if there was 25,000 balls in there, because I'm certainly not going to count them. I kind of wish I had some like precision scales so I could like weigh one ball and then compare it to the rest to see if that is actually 25,000. And these were cheap as well, so for the price of it, you'd think they'd just do like a thing with 100,000 in and have a full, you know, jar. as opposed to that. In fact, there's not really much point in having two separate jars. Should probably just pour these into a single jar, but we'll leave it as it is for now. By the way, guys, because I'm new getting into this reballing thing, if you do have any additional recommendations, please let me know, and we'll be placing another order and getting some more bits in that you recommend. I've just gone by what other people have said so far and what seems to be, you know, quite popular items. I am aware that as well, when you do pull a chip, sometimes the pads can lift and the pads can get damaged, unfortunately. So I do want to be able to repair any damaged pads. So I've picked up this from the Best brand. And this is the 3-in-1 jump wire patching tools. We've got a set of these little trace repair things. In fact, I didn't even realise it came with them, so I also bought a second set. Yeah, we also have this set as well, but in actual fact that this set looks like they are bigger pads than those ones, so it might be quite useful to have both of them, to be honest. We have a little bit of sanding paper included, and then we have these like super fine picks. So if you have a look at them, one of them's straight and one of them's like a little hook pick on the end. So I think these will be quite good for those real precision things, and like, you know, trying to line up those little pad repair strips, things like that, or trying to fold and get a little jumper wire in place. So we'll stick that one in there as well, just to keep it safe. Now, I did fail quite massively on the last trace repair that I did, so I will be using some scrap, you know, rubbish motherboards that we don't care about. I'll be damaging some ports on purpose, trying to damage some traces, and I will be doing a video, you know, trying to hone in and practice those skills until we actually get it successful, get it right. And talking about trace repair, I've also picked up this. You might remember on another previous video, I got these ones. These was the Relife things, and I thought that these were jumper wires, but I actually got it wrong. These are screen separation cutting wires, so I made a mistake buying these ones. So now we have this. This is the YCS, and it's 0.04, which is kind of the size that I wanted for the really small traces. Actually, it comes in quite a nice little case here, and it looks like this. And this is actually like pure copper wire, which is what I wanted. I didn't want to be messing around with that enamelled wire, because that's really gave me a hard time last time, trying to burn it away and get it to stick. So I think, and I didn't really feel that it was needed for what I was doing. I thought the copper wire with then the solder mask over the top would have worked perfectly well for what I wanted. You know, unless wires are touching each other, I don't really see that the enamelled wire would have offered me any benefits. So this pure copper wire looks like it's going to do the job just nicely, hopefully. And Ruslan UK has just subscribed. Yeah, nice to have another fellow person from the UK. Thank you very much for subscribing. Right, let's just have a little break from the reballing things for a second, because I want to show you this little guy. This is actually a little light. Now on my desk I've got the light coming down on here, but sometimes I just want to get in at little things and, you know, inspect things. So I thought it would be quite handy just to have a little rechargeable flashlight, and I'm actually really impressed with this one. You can see, I might be able to blind you for a second. It's got the light in the end here, and you can also activate a side light as well. So I think that would be great, especially when I'm using the BGA machine. If I just want to get in and, you know, inspect a little area, it's just quite a handy thing to have something very compact on your desk. So this is going to just like sit here over to the side with all my other little tools, and just a quick light to grab. So definitely useful for something to have on my workbench. That's going to be the sole purpose for it. And it does come with a little USB lead or whatever. Won't need that. Actually picked up quite a few YCS products this time, and this one looked interesting as well, as a flux dispenser. Now, I've tried so many flux dispensers and I still haven't got the perfect one that I like to use yet. I'm not satisfied with any of them overall. So we should give this one a shot, and I haven't got one that's like this. But the idea is you put your flux tube in here, and as you like press down on it, it keeps clicking this thing in and, you know, pushes the tube further down. So let me just try and get a flux. So So I've got one of those mechanic P09s. They're probably the best ones that I've used so far. But I do find you just need to put a layer of tape around them just to make sure that they make a good contact in there. So this one just locks in like that, I'm supposing. Oh yeah, it just clips in. Okay, so by itself, that's actually really secure. And then I guess we just put the plunger in. In fact, we'd have had to put that in first. So pop the plunger in. Lock it in position. And then we should be away. Right, let's try it on this black box. You should be able to see it. Oh, you know what? That actually works. That's actually really precise. I've got shaky hands, but you can see the dispensing on that. That is actually impressive. I'm happy with that one. That is better than having a thing where you have to like push it down like that and try. You can get much better pressure on there. Definitely that one is a win. We're going to be using that one. That is super cheap and a super simple design. I like that, and you can see how even the lines are on there, except for when I first started because it was a bit dried out in the end. But yeah, that's really nice. I'm going to use that one for sure. Oh, I'm really chuffed with that. And I think you can get them in different sizes as well. That was a 10cc. I did also experiment with this. This was a glass one as well. Which I thought was maybe a bit nicer quality than the plastic tubes, but it does have like the push fit one on there. But I am going to try to get a big tub of flux and refill it, so I might use this as one that I can you know, refill some of the tubes that I've got on there, just to save wastage of buying tons and tons of those small flux tubes. If I can find a decent flux, get it in a big container, and you know, just fill up some syringes. That was my idea. And I was also toying with the idea of this little guy, because this is a tiny one. I did wonder if like a really small container like that would give me quite a lot of control in the hand, rather than using the larger syringes. But I'm not sure now. After seeing that YCS one, I'm really impressed with that. So we might not even use that. These two guys I am really excited for. This is something that I have needed for quite some time. So when I first got my soldering iron, I did have the knife tips, but I had no idea how to use the soldering iron. And we were like 550 degrees, and I just burnt out both of the tips, unfortunately. So we do have these Relife knife tips. Now this is the 245 one, so hopefully this will give me some good heat transfer. But even though it is a 245, it is quite a nice sized on there. You know, it's not too big, so I think I would be able to get in between little surface mounted components, you know, even 0205, and, you know, touch up little components at an angle, you know, or touch up pads, especially when you're doing a QFN. I think the knife tip would shine, for, you know, for when you push it down and some solder squeezes at the edges, you can just trim it around, you know, go up and touch it up with the edge of a knife tip type of iron. So I'm really excited that I've finally got one of those. And exactly the same for the little 115 iron. This is called the K-tip, which is the knife tip. And you can see the size of this one. This is tiny, but I think very much needed for those real fine trace repairs. I reckon this one's going to be ideal, as long as it holds a little bit of solder on the tip when I use it. So mostly I use the IPA for cleaning, but inspired a little bit by NanoFix's video, because he reviewed quite a few different cleaning products for Flux. So I thought it would be quite good to give a few bits on AliExpress a go, see if any of them are any good. And I know, again, this Relife seems to be quite a decent brand, and this is water for cleaning PCB board. So again, no instructions or not too much details in here. But I'm just wondering if this would be more effective than the IPA or not. It does come in a very nice bottle, I have to say. I do quite like the packaging on here. feels quite nice. And I say, being Relife brand, it should be okay. The most important thing is I shouldn't be conductive, and so I don't have to worry about damaging anything. And I'd just like to see if this one does a better job, as I say, of cleaning. I can mostly clean the flux off with IPA. It just seems to give, leave that little bit of sticky residue that I'd like to be able to get rid of, and I don't currently have a ultrasonic cleaner. Let's have a look at the stencils then, because this is actually what I'm most excited for in this order. So this is the Amaoe. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I apologise. But this one is like a universal one. So I haven't opened this one yet. It comes in a little pack. The idea behind it is you get this nice solid metal base plate with a magnetic centre in here to hold down any stencils that you're going to use. So because this one is a universal one, you also get this little pad in here. So quite simple, the pad will sit in there, you put your chip on there, and then you snap your stencil on there, and you can get those really big universal stencils that can fit all different chips on there, be it a Nintendo Switch or an iPhone or whatever you're working. You can get those big universal stencils, or generic sizes. So that's the idea behind there, and then it's obviously going to be, super strong and hold things and clamp things down. So when you come on with the solder paste, it should do a good job. So I thought it was good to get the universal stencil as a starting point on there. And then what you could also get on top of the universal stencil is chip-specific stencils that you go into there. And these will actually hold the IC in the middle on here. So you will put your IC in there. And then once your IC is there, again, this is magnetic, look. You can see it's coming through. These will snap in on top of the IC. And it just means that you're going to get perfect alignment every time, because everything is keyed in here. So the chip is keyed and then the stencil is keyed. And so you can't really go wrong, I don't think, when you're reballing, as long as, the paste is good. So this looks really good. And by the way, this is the BGA 128 chip. So I wanted this one because I'm working mainly on laptops, and I do want to program some EC chips on there and replace some EC chips. So I believe that this is the right stencil that I need for the new more modern type of EC chips that are going to be the BGA pattern. So this is definitely going to be a useful one for me to have. Now, these little guys are quite interesting. I've seen these floating around recently on, quite a few like little TikTok videos and stuff, but I've not really seen any streamers or anybody really using these in their repairs. So I thought it'd be interesting to give these a go as well. So I'll show you what these are. So these are explosion-proof reballing pads on here. So this one has got 3 in there. And then this Wiley or something, this has just got a single piece of glass on there. Let me show you actually what you use them for. So if I was using solder paste to reball this one, and obviously I can use these little things. By the way, these little spreaders that you get with the kit, they're non-magnetic, which is what you want, because you don't want it like sticking as well to the pad when you do it. So these kind of things are ideal. They are a bit small on there, so I am going to get a special handle for these. But you'd spread your solder paste on there, and these are direct heat stencils, so you'd be able to use your hot air to make the balls on there. Now, what I have seen that can happen is that your balls can connect together, with the paste. So to give it an even thing, what you would do is you place these little pieces of heat-proof glass which can withstand the hot air, and then you can use your tweezers to kind of like, push down, apply a little bit of pressure, and that should stop any of the solder paste coming back out of the holes, and joining together, and hopefully keeping the pressure on there as well will give you an even finish with the balls. That's the idea behind them anyway. So as I say, the Wiley one, you get that single piece of glass in there. And in that other kit, you actually get 3 separate pieces. And I think these are a bit nicer, actually. I like the fact you get 3, and you can also see that the corners are like nicely rounded off. Now this one is a little bit thicker, so maybe that one will be more durable, I don't know. But yeah, definitely in this set you get 3 separate glasses, so you could also kind of match to the size that you're using as well if you didn't want to use, you know, too large one. Because these holes, I'm guessing, are for stopping the stencil from popping and warping under the heat. So yeah, you do get different sizes. Maybe you could just use the really small one in the middle. And I think that little case would be ideal, just to keep in some of the small bits inside here, so I can keep those glass pieces in. And we can also keep those little spatula things in there as well, so that keeps it nice and tidy. And that'll be another thing to add into the reballing kit. Right, so let me pop this one away as well. So the next one's going to be quite important for me, because there seems to be on AliExpress 2 big players that do the stencils, especially which include laptop stencils for the chips that I would be interested in. Maybe PCH, you know, your chipset, CPU, GPU, all those type of good ones. I'm going to need the stencils for those particular chips. Now, if you go in mobile phones, there seems to be loads of different brands that offer like iPhone stencils and things like that. But as I say, you are more limited. So what I'm aiming to do here is compare the two. So we got that Amaoe, and we've also got the XZZ. These are the 2 big ones. So instead of investing lots of money and buying all the stencils in one brand, what I thought I would do is just get one of each of exactly the same stencil, and then I can compare them here side by side to see which one is actually the best, which one I like the most, that's going to work for me. And, you know, we'll be able to, you know, maybe invest and get more range of stencils in the future. So for Joey's laptop that I've been working on, this is the Ryzen 7 CPU, so I was trying to get the stencil for that, and unfortunately I have actually messed up. I got the wrong one. This must be for the older AMD ones because it doesn't fit. But nevertheless, we can still compare the stencils, but I just won't be able to practice right now. I'll have to find out what the right stencil is. So if you do know what I need for the Ryzen 7, yeah, please let me know. But again, I'll be using these stencils still, I'm sure, in the future. And we have got the base plates. So these do come like a base plate, and then like you get the actual kit that goes on top. So you can see they are both called YM2300. This is the Amaoe one, and this is the XZZ one. So let me just prise this apart. It is quite a strong magnet, and what you will notice on this one, unlike the universal one, this actually has 4 magnets on there to give you that extra strength, because obviously you are doing, you know, a much larger size chip on here, and it does have a little bit more like alignment pins. So you can see there's 2 pins in here that line up with like the holes in the corner. So yeah, this will go in like that, and obviously it's not magnetic until you put the stencil on. This has no magnets in there, so that will just fit nice and freely in there. You will place, again, like the other one we looked at, your CPU directly into this little jig here. And as I say, I can't actually demonstrate to you because this one is not the right stencil for this jig, but you get the point. And you could also use that as well if you wanted to clean up the pads under the CPU as a little holder, or you could use like one of the board holders I featured in the last video. And then all you would do is, you can see like how strong this magnet is, which is ideal. It's almost difficult to get it in because it's so strong, the magnet. But then you could just apply your paste on there or your solder balls. Now, to me, it feels like this is more designed for solder paste, to be honest with you, because I could pour the balls on there, but they are just going to run off everywhere. There doesn't seem to be like a nice little channel for them, and I'll compare it and show you the XZZ one in a minute. But everything does feel really nice, high quality with this stencil. So I am not sure how effective paste would be on a big chip like this. I mean, if I get the technique dialed in, then maybe it would be. And obviously paste will save you quite a lot more time than doing balls. But yeah, I think for big chips like this, you'd probably want to aim towards using like those 0.4 balls that I picked up. So you can see also how nice this little holder is here for all of the stencils. It's going to keep everything, you know, really nicely organised in there. I quite like that actually. So the XZZ, bearing in mind this is exactly the same as that stencil, so let me show you this. So with this one, you've got this base plate on here, which again feels, to be honest with you, exactly the same quality as the other one that I've looked at, but it doesn't have the magnets on the top here. The magnets are actually like embedded. I think they must be in this part. And I'm wondering if that's actually a better thing, because I know as the magnets heat up, they do lose some of their, magnet power on there. So maybe that's actually a good thing with the XZZ one. Maybe this will protect it a little bit and the heat will like disperse in here. And very much similar to the other one, you get this little jig in here. That's exactly the right size for your chip that you're going to place into here. And then you've got the little magnetic stencil that you put in on top here. And again, the magnet is gripping this quite well, so I'll just move it over a little bit. And it's lined up lovely now, and you can see just from that little piece of metal in here, it's completely stable. It's really pulling it in and it's not going anywhere. So the thing that I like about this that's different is that it's almost like a little bucket in here because it's recessed in. So you're going to pour all your balls into here, spread them around, get them all into the holes on the chip, and then any excess balls, you've got a little runoff here. It's got like a little channel, so you could just channel them out and maybe, reuse them, put them back in the bottle, any of the balls that you don't use. What I'm not sure about is if this is a direct heat stencil or not. I'm assuming because it really looks like it's designed for balls, you would put the balls in on there, and then it's got like a nice little grip on here, so you could easily just pull that, take the magnet away, so this is no longer, attached, and then you could just, push your chip from the underside, and get rid of the stencil, and hopefully all the balls are left in place. You might be able to heat it up as well. We'd have to experiment with that. So yeah, I am a little bit disappointed that I didn't get the right jig, unfortunately, for this CPU, because I would have loved to crack on and do a little bit of practice, but, we'll have to do that, or I might get a dead CPU that is the right one that I can practice on for these jigs. That would be nice. So just thinking about it, what I might do is, if I want to use solder balls, then I will get the XZZ ones, and if I want to use solder paste, then I'm going to get those Amaoe ones. I think that would probably make sense. And I did get one more Amaoe one, and it looks like you keep getting these little scraper things in every single pack that you get as well, so that's quite useful. Let me show you this one. So this stencil is actually for DDR5, DDR6 and DDR7, so all of the modern DDR that you're going to get, if you're going to do laptops with soldered RAM, or you're going to do GPU repairs as well. And what I really liked about this one is that you can do 6 chips all at the same time with this stencil. So I've got one here, but unfortunately this is a DDR4 again, so I'm not going to be able to do any practice with this one, but you get the idea. You could line up this stencil with 6 different chips all at the same time and reball them, which might be a common thing if you wanted to do an upgrade, or you're going to do, just want to replace them all. Here is the little faceplate that goes on, and you can see where you would use, usually solder paste, I would imagine, would be fine for these types of chips. And similar like the CPU one, because it is quite a large stencil with 6 chips on there, you do get the 4 magnets on there with the lining up holes. So we would connect them on there. And these are unbelievably strong, these magnets. Yeah, check that out. I think that's a really nice stencil. That will be another really good one then to add into this collection then. I do have quite a long way that I need to go with this stencil collection, but I think, I will try and build it up over time, as and when I come across chips when I need them. Yeah, we'll get the new stencils and get them all stacked up in here and have them all ready. So I think we just have 3 last items to have a look at then. Let me just show you this little dongle first. So all this is a little USB dongle, and it just adds Wi-Fi 6 to your laptop or something like that. Now, of course, every laptop usually comes with a Wi-Fi card anyway, so why bother with this, and why do I need this? So I've done quite a few laptops recently, and especially with Windows 11, I keep running into the same problem. So I'll go and install Windows 11, and then I find that there's no Wi-Fi drivers basic Windows drivers even to connect me to the internet. So that leaves me two choices. I either have to go and connect to, with an Ethernet cable and take the laptop over to a router, which is not in the bench where I'm working. I don't have any Ethernet. Or I'll have to go on the internet on another machine, download them, put them on a USB stick, transfer them over just to get me on the internet on that laptop. But the idea behind this one is a driver free. It's actually not driver free as it says on here, but this is actually also a USB stick. So when you plug this in, the drivers are actually installed, and there's an executable on this here. It comes up as a little drive when you plug it in your computer. You install the drivers and you're away with your Wi-Fi. So when I've got the Wi-Fi up, I'll just do a Windows update and get all the drivers installed. So, this is quite a handy little tool. Now, I do have other ways of doing it as well. I use like a snappy driver as well, but I think this is just quite a handy little thing to have. It just gets you up and running quickly on a laptop. So I'll keep that, and it's very cheap as well. So yeah, I'll leave the link for that one. Right, these are quite interesting things. Again, like those little glass things, I've also seen these ones like trending around on TikTok and stuff, and I've never seen anybody actually really use them. So I thought I would be one of the first to try and give it a shot to see if they're good or not. I'll just open them up and explain what they actually are. So you actually get 5 of them in the pack, and you can see they're like a little foamy material with this silver lining on. And what these are is heat resistant pads. So these can protect certain areas when you're working with your hot air gun. I've seen like the little videos of them, and they're literally like putting them on top of like an ice cube or something, using their hot air gun at like maximum temperature, and it's not even melting, or they put it on top of like a plastic connector and it does nothing on there. Apparently these are like, proper heat proof little pads, and that's ideal when you're working on laptops because there's so many little plastic connectors and things that you don't want to damage, and the components that are faulty always seem to be near, really important things like a PCI, NVMe slot, or, your screen connector or something. So the idea with these is that you can put them on, and they're also flexible, so you could like bend them and shove them over a connector, or maybe it's a graphics card and you want a few of those like over some electrolytic capacitors to not heat them up. I think that this, if they work, will be really ideal for doing repairs. So yeah, I've got them, and I'm quite happy that you actually get 5 in a pack. I thought it was just like one of them. So I will keep them on top of my hot air station, and we'll be giving them a go. I'm running out of time on this video for how long this is going to take. I don't want it to be super long, so we'll probably have to do a little review of some of these things and try them out. Maybe we'll do a live stream and have a bit of fun with some of these things. Last up on the list then, we have this mechanic conductive silver paste. Now let me just explain to you what this is. I'll just take it apart and give you a demonstration if you've not seen this before. The idea behind this kit is it's actually used for repairing things like flexible ribbon cables, things where if you get a little break in the wire, it's very difficult to solder jumper wires to. You can't really use the hot air because the ribbon cables aren't designed for that amount of heat. You end up just like melting them and stuff. So this is actually like a conductive ink. This is like a little vial that you can open, and it's got the conductive silver paste in there. And you've got a little knife blade. I mean, you could just use any knife blade, but this comes with it. So you could scratch away at either side of the trace where the break is, and then you can just basically run a line of conductive ink across it, and apparently it's quite good. Then once that's dried, you could probably put solder mask or something on it, and these in this one are little applicators. So I'm not sure how good that's going to come across on camera, but these are almost like a tiny little feather hair, super thin for applying this conductive ink. I've managed to get one out. I've just put it against there so you can see it contrasting, but it does have a little bit of like rigidity in it, but you could almost use this like a tiny little paintbrush just to run a line across and repair a trace with this ink. So really interesting technique. And not all ribbon cables you're actually able to get replacements from. It can be quite difficult. So this could get you out of jail, if you really can't find a spare or something and you have to repair it. And depending on how effective these are, yeah, it could be, something worth having. especially how cheap they are as well. I'll be definitely giving it a try and seeing if this works. I don't want to lose these tiny things, so I'll probably keep them in there as well as the other things, so we don't lose them. So I think that's it. I'm going to have to leave it for here. I'm not going to have time to try out all these things. It's taken me quite a long time to film this, and I've got to try and edit this video as well. So we will be trying some of these, and I'll be doing dedicated videos trying to do some little practice sessions, you know, doing trace repairs, doing reballing, maybe doing those FPC ribbon cables. I really want to try and put some of these tools to good use, so please, if you haven't already, subscribe and look out for those videos. Maybe we'll also try a few live streams as well, doing it together, so I can get your feedback. So as always, guys, I really appreciate you watching and sticking around to the end. It does mean a lot to me, and hopefully some of those tools I showed were useful, might be useful to you. All the links will be in the description, and thank you for supporting me and supporting my channel. I'm going to see you in the next one, because I'm going to be trying to repair the JDT laptop more, and do have a little update about that. I won't give any spoilers away, but we might be changing direction a little bit on the next video on that one. So yeah, stay tuned, guys, and yeah, thanks a lot. Bye.